You could tell he was intelligent just by talking to him.
Far from the city where he lived and died, a portrait emerges of James Dale Ritchie, under investigation as a potential serial murderer.
That's him and his mom.
Known to friends in Alaska as Tiny,
See how tall he is?
police say Ritchie killed one person and wounded an officer with a gun linked to 4 other Anchorage murders.
We never called him Tiny. We always called him James.
Alan Hottinger was Ritchie's neighbor for 2 years in the small Virginia town of Broadway, population 3,700. A collection of farms, churches, and tidy brick houses. How did the quiet, helpful man neighbors knew here?
My daughters, when they went to school, had an issue with computers. They rely on James, and James would just jump in there and help them out.
Become accused of killing an old friend's son back in Anchorage?
It's just not in his character or his heart he's too much of a was too much of a God-fearing person, believed in life and cared about people.
I stopped in Broadway to learn more.
He wanted an engineering job, and he wanted a chemical engineering job. And like I said, he was just super intelligent.
The town manager told me, quote, "Our police remember him visiting the local 7-Eleven from time to time in the evenings, but we never had any encounters with him." The police chief said Ritchie's only court records in Virginia were a couple of traffic offenses. But investigators are now looking into his past and his travels here and elsewhere.
To see if they can come up with some sort of a common MO, common characteristics that could possibly link him to other killings in other states.
Places like Virginia and Las Vegas, Nevada.
I know he was supposed to be going to college in Richmond, and that was the last I had heard.
Richmond?
Virginia.
Okay.
And that's the last I had heard. He had moved to Richmond and was taking classes.
Police say Ritchie was back in Alaska by March of this year.
He had a girlfriend, I guess, and then they split up, and that kind of soured him on wanting to stay down there, I think.
Doris Hilmer is an old friend and former roommate.
He kept speaking on the fact that he missed being in Alaska. He missed home. He wanted to come home.
For now, Ritchie is accused of one killing, that of Travion Kendall Thompson, and police are looking to prove or disprove that he pulled the trigger in the other murders linked to his gun. Police will not comment on the investigation other than to say it is ongoing. Ritchie's parents also declined to speak with us. But years ago in court, his mother hoped for the best but feared for his future.
I just felt like he was just a time bomb waiting to either be killed or to be in jail for the rest of his life.
This is where I first met him. This is what he looked like.
James Dale Ritchie's life was one of high promise.
This murderer
and heartbreaking turns.
It's the worst possible thing.
A state champion athlete at East High.
He was a good student. He played sports. He was constantly busy in activities and had planned to leave and go to college.
With top test scores.
Even though his grades were excellent, scored 1,200 on the SATs. And even though junior colleges and small colleges were recruiting him to play ball, he played both football and basketball, and he's graduating in '94. He felt that he wanted to play Division I ball.
But nothing went as planned. His mother told a judge that Ritchie's good friend was shot and killed the day before Ritchie left for college. And after trying to walk onto the football team at West Virginia, Ritchie returned to Alaska, where he was charged in a 1995 drug case and a 1996 case of promoting animal fighting.
You know, these kids pit their pit bulls together for fights and stuff, you know. Or I remember you told me one time that one of his dogs, or somebody's dog, got a hold of a rabbit and killed it. And when you told me about it, it was just like he was crazy looking when he said it.
Other accusations followed.
He was involved in a drug invasion, or a drug-related, apparently home invasion robbery, and kidnapping, in which he was involved with keeping up a completely innocent person when that robbery went astray.
Those charges were dropped or never prosecuted. But by 1998, court records show Ritchie was in big trouble.
And you also reported to the probation officer that your son had told you he was selling drugs in order to support staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
Guilty of felony drug possession. Friends say Ritchie and his friends in Mountain View were no angels.
The kids sold drugs off and on. That's something that, you know, is knowledgeable. They all did it. And they'd rob people that sold drugs. They'd rob them for their drugs and their money.
Most of them, to have a weapon or a strap as would be only for show. Most of them weren't clappers. Placed in a situation, they would probably fight versus shoot someone.
But they remember him as a good-natured, big-hearted friend.
He was cool, man. He was my brother Quincy's best friend.
He was a good-hearted person, that he loved people, that he was harmless. He wouldn't intentionally hurt someone.
In a letter to a judge, Ritchie once wrote that he wished he would have chosen to play sports at one of the smaller colleges that had pursued him. Quote, "I lay in bed every night thinking about how I've ruined my life. Then I sit up crying, wishing I could go back to when I was in high school," he wrote. The troubles continued. In 2005, Ritchie did 2 years in prison for burglary. As we reported yesterday, he was in Virginia as of early 2013. Public records show he lived there for 2 or more years.
He went to college. He was going to be an engineer in college. And he had went through taking some transfer classes in college, and a very intelligent guy, honestly.
The FBI says Ritchie also spent time in Nevada before returning to Alaska. Old friends in Anchorage saw him around earlier this year. But he hadn't been back long when police connected Ritchie, who was previously not a suspect, to a string of killings.
I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I kind of told Bobby, I can't wrap my head around him doing this. I can't. We've known him for a long, long, long time. But I've not seen him for 15, 20 years.
While the chief of police referred to Ritchie as a murderer, they have not publicly called him a serial killer.
This aggressive, ambushing suspect.
That's because 4 of the homicides linked to the revolver he was carrying remain unsolved for now.
Just because he had that gun doesn't mean that all those murders that happened with it were from him.
And key questions are unanswered. When and where did Ritchie get the revolver? And how do friends and family reconcile the man they knew with the crimes he's accused of committing?
He came home and something happened. I don't know what.